What would you do if the person you loved, the one who promised you the world, turned out to be hiding a deadly secret? A secret so dangerous that uncovering it meant signing your own death warrant. Welcome to Crime Chronicles, where we bring you the most gripping true crime stories that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. If you love stories that unravel deception, power, and chilling betrayals, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because this is one tale you won't want to miss. This is the tragic story of Amara Lee, a young Singaporean woman who found herself entangled in the web of Karim Al Fayed, a billionaire CEO from Dubai, in a deadly affair that would ultimately lead to murder. Amara Lee was no ordinary woman. At just 26 years old, she was intelligent, ambitious, and strikingly beautiful. A former financial analyst turned luxury lifestyle influencer, she had built a glamorous life for herself, traveling the world and rubbing shoulders with the elite. But nothing could have prepared her for the man who would change everything, Karim Al Fayed. Karim wasn't just any billionaire, he was one of Dubai's most powerful and influential business magnates. With a net worth estimated at $5.6 billion, he controlled an empire spanning real estate, oil, and high-end technology. A man of mystery, charm, and danger, he was everything Amara found irresistible. Their paths first crossed in Florida, a place where Karim often conducted business dealings under a veil of secrecy. He was known to frequent the most extravagant social circles, always careful to maintain an air of enigma. One fateful evening, Amara attended an exclusive yacht party in Miami, a gathering reserved only for the ultra-wealthy and those who catered to their lavish tastes. The moment their eyes met across the deck, there was an unspoken energy between them. Amara, drawn in by his smoldering gaze and magnetic presence, found herself unable to look away. And Karim, a man accustomed to getting what he wanted, locked his sights on her like a predator marking his prey. He approached her with the confidence of a man who owned the world. "You don't belong in a place like this," he murmured, his voice a rich, intoxicating blend of charm and danger. She smirked, tilting her chin defiantly. "And why's that?" "Because you shine too brightly to be lost among shadows." It was a line, of course, but one that sent a thrill down Amara's spine nonetheless. Their conversation spiraled into the early hours of the morning, deep, seductive, and filled with whispered secrets. By the time dawn kissed the horizon, she was already falling. From that night on, Karim pursued Amara with relentless intensity. Despite being married to one of the most influential women in the Middle East, he showered her with unimaginable luxury like private jets, diamond necklaces, and secret getaways to the Maldives. Every moment they spent together was a fairy tale laced with sin, an indulgence that felt too exhilarating to deny. But beneath the surface of passion and luxury, danger lurked. Karim was a man with secrets. He operated in a world where loyalty was bought, silence was enforced, and betrayal was punished with unspeakable consequences. Amara was mesmerized by the lifestyle, yet there was an ever-growing shadow trailing her, a gnawing suspicion that she had stepped into something far more perilous than she had ever imagined. The warning signs were there, but she ignored them. The first red flag came one evening in Dubai, when Karim took her to a high-stakes private event at a secluded villa. She was the only woman there who wasn't draped in tradition, an outsider in a world of power players, whispered deals, and guarded conversations. Karim kept her close, his grip on her wrist a little too tight whenever certain men approached. "These people, they're not like you," he told her cryptically as they left. "They don't forgive mistakes." Mistakes? What kind of mistakes? She had no idea what he meant. The second red flag came when he abruptly cancelled their trip to Monaco at the last minute. "Business complications," he said, his jaw tense. When she pressed him, he simply kissed her and whispered, "Trust me." But the biggest warning came one night in Miami, as she waited for him in his penthouse. She had left her phone charging on his nightstand when a call came through. Without thinking, she glanced at the screen. Unknown number. A second later, a message popped up. "She knows. Handle it." A chill slithered down her spine. What did that mean? Who was the message from? And more importantly, who was it about? She had every reason to believe it wasn't about her. But in the pit of her stomach, she knew. It was. Amara had stumbled into something far beyond her understanding. A world where power wasn't just about money, it was about control, fear, and the ability to erase problems with the snap of a finger. And she was about to learn just how dangerous it was to be Kareem Al-Fayyad's secret. Amara knew she was playing with fire, but she never imagined just how deadly Kareem's world truly was. At first, the thrill of secrecy had been intoxicating, the whispered phone calls in the middle of the night, and the stolen glances across crowded rooms, the clandestine meetings in luxury hotels where time seemed to stand still. But as she soon discovered, her affair with Kareem was more than just a reckless indulgence, it was a descent into a world of power, obsession, and peril. Kareem was no ordinary man. He was the heir to one of Dubai's most influential families, bound by obligations far greater than love. His marriage to Layla Al-Fayyad was not a union of hearts but a calculated alliance between two dynasties. A divorce was not just frowned upon, but it was an impossible venture. The cost of scandal was unthinkable, and the price of betrayal was unforgivable. At first, Amara dismissed his cryptic warnings. She had always known that their affair was dangerous, but she hadn't grasped just how deep Kareem's entanglements ran. It wasn't until his obsession turned suffocating that she began to feel the walls closing in. It started with small things. "Text me when you wake up," he had instructed her one morning. "And before you go to bed." She had laughed, thinking he was just being affectionate. But soon, his demands became more rigid. If she didn't respond to his messages within minutes, he would flood her phone with calls. When she traveled, he demanded to know her itinerary, tracking her movements as though she belonged to him. The moment she realized just how controlling he had become was the night she posted a picture of herself in Miami. It was an innocent snapshot, just her by the beach, the golden hues of sunset casting a soft glow on her skin. Within seconds, her phone vibrated violently. Kareem's name flashed across the screen. "Take it down. Now." His voice was a sharp whisper, but it carried a weight that sent a shiver down her spine. "Why?" she asked, startled by his tone. "You don't understand, Amara," he said, his breath heavy over the line. "If people find out about us, there will be consequences." She hesitated. "Kareem, you're overreacting. No one knows. Delete it." His voice was firm. "Or I'll do it for you." Reluctantly, she removed the post, but unease settled in her chest like a stone. For the first time, she saw a glimpse of the man Kareem truly was, not just the passionate lover who whispered sweet words into her ear, but a man bound by secrets far darker than she could comprehend. That night, as she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, she replayed their conversations in her mind. His paranoia wasn't just about his wife finding out. No, this was something else. Something bigger. She told herself she was imagining things, that she was overthinking, but deep down, a nibbling fear began to take root. The turning point came 3 weeks later. Amara was in Paris on a work trip, trying to focus on her meetings, but Kareem's presence loomed over her like a shadow. He checked in constantly, his questions laced with a quiet intensity that unsettled her. One night, after dinner with a few colleagues, she returned to her hotel suite to find something chilling. A single red rose on her pillow. Her breath hitched. No one knew which hotel she was staying at. She had deliberately avoided telling Kareem the exact details. And yet, he had found her. Her phone rang. "Kareem. You got my gift." His voice was soft, but there was something menacing beneath it. "How did you know where I was?" Her voice trembled. He chuckled. "I told you, Amara. I always know." A cold dread seeped into her veins. What had started as a thrilling secret had become something far more dangerous. She wasn't just Kareem's lover anymore. She was his possession. The next day, she booked an early flight back to New York, desperate to put distance between them. She ignored his calls, his messages. But deep down, she knew it wasn't over. And she was right. When she stepped into her apartment that night, exhaustion settling over her, she felt it immediately that something was off. The air was different, like someone had been there. Her heart pounded as she moved through the space, her pulse quickening with every silent step. Then she saw it. Another red rose. This time, it was on her coffee table, next to a note. "You can't run from me." A scream caught in her throat as her phone buzzed in her hand. She didn't need to check to know who it was. She was no longer just entangled in an affair. She was trapped in a deadly game. And there was no way out. One evening, during one of their secret rendezvous in a penthouse overlooking the Miami skyline, Amara made a fatal mistake. She found a hidden phone in Kareem's suite. A phone he had never mentioned before. Curiosity got the best of her, and she unlocked it. What she found sent shivers down her spine. Videos. Pictures. Emails. Proof that Kareem wasn't just a billionaire CEO, he was involved in illegal dealings, offshore accounts, and even money laundering for criminal organizations. Her heart pounded as she scrolled through the messages. If she knew this, what did that mean for her? And then the front door clicked. Kareem had returned. Put yourself in Amara's shoes. You've just discovered the dark secret of a powerful billionaire. You're in his penthouse, and he's walking through the door. Would you run? Would you confront him? Or would you pretend you saw nothing? Let us know in the comments below, because Amara had to make a choice. And it would seal her fate. Amara barely had time to lock the phone and slip it back where she found it before Kareem stepped in. But something was different. His usual effortless charm was gone, replaced by a chilling stillness. His sharp, calculating eyes scanned her face, searching and dissecting. "You look nervous," he said slowly, his voice like a blade cutting through the silence. "Why?" She forced a smile, hoping he couldn't hear the erratic thudding of her heart. "Just tired." Kareem stared at her for a long moment, and then reached for his phone. Amara's blood ran cold. Would he notice? Would he know she had seen everything? For a fleeting moment, it seemed like he hadn't. He placed the phone in his pocket and walked toward her, pressing a soft kiss against her forehead. "Let's get out of here," he murmured. But in his mind, he already knew. And Amara had just signed her death warrant. The air inside the penthouse felt suffocating, but she forced herself to move, to act normal. Every step she took felt like walking on a minefield. She needed to escape, but how? Where would she go where Kareem couldn't find her? As they stepped into his sleek black car, her mind raced. The city lights of Dubai blurred past, the hum of the engine masking the chaos inside her head. Kareem's fingers drummed on the leather steering wheel, his silence more terrifying than words. Then, as if testing her, he asked, "What were you doing in my study earlier?" Her pulse spiked. She kept her expression neutral, just looking for a charger. He didn't respond immediately. His grip on the wheel tightened. "You shouldn't go through my things, Amara." She swallowed. "I wasn't." Enough. His voice was sharp, cutting off her protest. His jaw clenched. "I don't like being lied to." The weight of his words settled between them. The drive felt like an eternity, each second stretching unbearably. Finally, they pulled up to his private villa on the outskirts of the city. The moment she stepped inside, she felt it, something was wrong. The lights were dimmed lower than usual. The house was eerily silent. Kareem locked the door behind them. Then he turned to her, his expression unreadable. "Sit." Her breath hitched. "Kareem." "Sit," he repeated, his voice void of warmth. With no other choice, she obeyed. He paced slowly in front of her, pulling his phone out and scrolling through it. Her stomach knotted in fear. Did he find something? Was this it? Do you know what happens to people who betray me, Amara? His tone was almost casual, but the threat beneath it was unmistakable. Her hands clenched into fists on her lap. I haven't. He suddenly threw the phone onto the glass table, and the screen lit up with a series of images. Her heart stopped. Screenshots of her recent activity, her in his study, her accessing files she wasn't supposed to see. A still from the security footage. Her body went numb. He knew. The realization sent a violent tremor through her limbs. She had nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Kareem leaned in, brushing a hand along her jawline. It was a gesture she once found affectionate, but now it felt like a noose tightening around her neck. You're a smart woman, Amara, he whispered, his lips inches from hers. You tell me, what should I do with you now? Her mind screamed at her to fight, to flee, to do something. But she was trapped. And she knew, without a doubt, that this was only the beginning. She swallowed, forcing herself to meet his gaze. Kareem, I didn't mean to. Didn't mean to. His voice was dangerously soft. He straightened, circling her like a predator. You're not that naive. You knew exactly what you were doing. She bit the inside of her cheek, willing herself not to break. I was curious. Curiosity can get you killed, he said, tilting his head. Or worse. Her stomach churned. I wasn't going to say anything. His laugh was low, humorless. And I should believe you. He leaned closer, gripping the armrest beside her. Give me one reason why I shouldn't make you disappear tonight. Her breath caught. This was it, her moment to either outsmart him or seal her fate. I can help you, she blurted. Whatever you're hiding, I can make sure no one else finds out. His brow arched. You think you're in a position to negotiate? Amara's fingers gripped the fabric of her dress. You know I'm resourceful. I could be an asset. Kareem studied her for an agonizing moment. Then, he smiled, a slow, knowing smile that sent a shiver down her spine. Very well, he murmured. Let's see just how valuable you really are. Relief flooded her, but it was short-lived. Because one thing was clear. She had just made a deal with the devil. And there was no turning back now. A week later, Amara was found dead in her Miami apartment. The cause? Poisoning. Authorities ruled it as an accidental overdose, but those who knew her didn't believe it. She was always careful, always cautious. There were too many unanswered questions, too many loose ends. It was Amara's neighbor, an elderly woman named Mrs. Alvarez, who first suspected something was wrong. She hadn't seen Amara in 2 days, which was unusual. The music that often played softly from her apartment had been replaced by an eerie silence. Even more troubling, a package sat untouched outside her door. Mrs. Alvarez hesitated before knocking. When there was no answer, she called the building manager. Together, they unlocked the door. The air was heavy, the scent of expensive perfume mingling with something more unsettling. Amara's lifeless body was slumped on the living room couch, an empty glass in her hand. A nearly full bottle of wine sat on the table beside her, a single lipstick-stained glass next to it. Her phone lay on the floor, screen cracked, as if she had tried to reach for it before losing consciousness. The paramedics arrived within minutes, but it was too late. Amara was gone. At first glance, it seemed like a tragic accident. A toxicology report confirmed high levels of a lethal substance in her bloodstream, mixed with alcohol. The official cause of death: accidental overdose. But those who knew Amara weren't convinced. She never did drugs, her best friend, Layla, told reporters. She barely drank. Something isn't right. Ryan Chen, a journalist who had spent years tracking the hidden crimes of the elite, knew this was no accident. He had been following Karim's shadowy dealings for years, watching as people who crossed him either disappeared or met untimely deaths. When he heard about Amara's death, something clicked. Ryan began digging. What he found sent a chill down his spine. The night before Amara's death, she had called him. It was late past midnight and her voice was trembling. "I made a mistake," she whispered. "I thought I could handle it, but he knows, Ryan. He knows everything." "Amara, where are you?" "In my apartment. I think someone was here earlier and things feel off." Ryan urged her to leave immediately, to check into a hotel, but she refused. "If I run, he'll know I'm scared." That was the last time he heard her voice. Security footage from the apartment building showed a man entering the premises an hour later. The grainy image captured only his silhouette, but Ryan knew. He had seen that figure before. Karim. By the time investigators started connecting the dots, Karim was gone. His private jet left Florida the same night Amara died. He had covered his tracks flawlessly, just as he always did. Back in Dubai, he was untouchable. Protected by power, money, and influence, no warrant could reach him. No journalist could expose him without consequences. Ryan watched as the case was quietly closed. No suspects. No arrests. Just another tragedy lost in a sea of corruption. But he wasn't giving up. Because deep down, he knew one thing for certain. Amara's death was just the beginning. To this day, Amara Lee's death remains a mystery. Some believe she was silenced for knowing too much. Others say she was simply another casualty in the dangerous world of power and deception. But one thing is certain: her story is a warning. A warning about how power protects the guilty, how love can blind you, and how sometimes, curiosity can be fatal. What do you think? Was Amara's death really an accident? Or was it the perfect crime orchestrated by a man too powerful to fall? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this story shocking, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Crime Chronicles. We bring you the most chilling true crime stories that will keep you up at night. Until next time, stay safe, stay vigilant, and trust no one.